Welcome back to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. I'm excited about our guest today because you know that in this world that we're living in that there's so much toxicity. Her area of specialty is going to help us reconnect with our bodies, with our mind, and with our soul. So Michelle Petties, welcome to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia.
I am so excited to be here. I really am. I really am. Thank you, Marcia. Thanks
It's
for
so
holding space. Thanks for the platform. Thanks for the conversation. All that.
all that. I love it. I love it. So, a quick bio about Michelle. She is a TEDx speaker. That is on my to do list. She's a food story coach and author of an award winning Amazon best-selling memoir, Leaving Large: The Stories of a Food Addict. However, you can get it on her website because y'all know we boycotting Amazon right now. Okay. So, we're going to have that information for you. But for years, Michelle was a top performer for the most influential brands in media, including Radio One, Disney, ABC. Finally, the stress of the competitive media advertising space, it took a toll on her mentally and physically. After gaining and losing over 700 pounds, she discovered the secret to quieting the battle between her mind, her body, and hunger, sharing her story, Michelle's memoir, a category winner in 2022 Memoir Prize for Books. She explored the deep emotional and psychological connection to food. Listen, I get on the roller coaster too. So I'm telling you, there is a psychological connection to it. So we're going to learn more today. She developed a prescriptive writing process to make peace with her mind, her body, and the relationship with food. Her approach emphasizes that the battle with weight isn't just about food. You got to understand that part of it, right? But the stories and the emotions behind why we eat. Understanding and rewriting these narratives, individuals can achieve lasting formation. She speaks to organizations all over, large or small, none of that matters. As long as the people that are supposed to be present to hear are present to hear.
That's
She shares
right.
her insights and her stories of hope, healing, triumph, and transformation. Her latest books, again on the website, Mind Over Meals: 7 Secrets to Rewire Your Brain for Healthy Eating and High Performance. Again, Michelle, thank you so much for being here. I'm super elated about this conversation because I know that for us that are on this roller coaster of weight loss, weight gain, weight loss, weight gain, we have to tap into our truth about our relationship with food. So tell me a little bit about the pre weight loss relationship with food.
Okay. All right. So, as I'm listening to that bio, I think, oh gee, that must have been one of the early ones I wrote because as we talk about this pre-relationship with
Mm-hmm.
food, I don't. When I first started doing this work, I used that language. I used that language just because that's what everybody else did, right? I thought it
Yeah.
was right, and of late, I don't say that anymore. In
Mm.
fact, specifically not saying it is part of my platform and
Okay.
part of what I teach and what I am finding and have found in the almost 5 years since I released the book, because the book came out in December 2021. It's hard to believe it's been that long, right? 21,
Wow.
22, 23, 24, 25, or 4 years, almost 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, that I have learned so much, right? I
Mm.
mean, there, man, the stuff that I know now versus when I wrote that book, it blows my mind, which is why I had to come out with that second ebook. Um,
Yeah.
but the pre
Mm-hmm.
versus the post, and
Mm-hmm.
and I and I think it's really like the pre moment of truth
Right.
versus
I like
the
that.
post moment of truth, and it's this pre moment of truth about food,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And and we were talking earlier before we got on camera about my TEDx talk. And
Mm-hmm.
my TED talk is just about that. It is about the confusion that kept
Mm-hmm.
me trapped,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the confusion that keeps all of us trapped. And
Yeah.
the talk is a food addict's lesson: confusion, clarity, recovery, because
Ooh.
those are the steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the steps. And the pre Michelle, before
Mm-hmm.
that TED talk, before the book, before the final leg of this work, was someone who did not really understand a couple things. I didn't understand what real food was.
Ooh.
I didn't know the difference between real food and fake food,
Mm.
right?
You know you're gonna have to break that down for the people.
Like so many of us. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't I didn't know what real hunger felt like, because
Okay.
there are a number of different things that show up in our stomach, right? That's not hunger. And
Mm.
there's a difference between the desire to eat and actual hunger, right? We get all these confusing messages about hunger, especially with all the drugs, right? And I'm not, and I'm
Yeah.
not, and I'm not against taking weight loss drugs. I took many of them myself over the years, but
Mm-hmm.
I gained the weight back because I didn't know how to do the mental work. So,
Mm-hmm.
depending on where you are in your journey, and everybody's journey is different, you may need that. You may need the surgery. But
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing: you have got to do the mental work as well. None of that stuff, the drugs don't work, the surgery doesn't work, the diets don't work if you don't do the mental work. And
Mm.
this culture, here's the thing. This culture does not set us up to do the mental work.
Right.
This weight loss industry is $60 billion weight loss industry, $70 billion weight loss industry is vested in the fact that we will get it wrong and that we will keep getting it wrong.
Oh wow. I didn't even think about it like that.
And so here's the thing: the pre Michelle, right? All
Mm-hmm.
right. So thought I didn't even know I was a stress eater. I didn't even
Mm.
I was an emotional eater. I didn't even know what that felt like. You know what I thought? I just thought I liked food more than everybody else.
Wow. And you know, we do that. We have those self-sabotaging thoughts
But
that
we don't
I can't control. I can't discipline. But you can if you have the tools.
if you have the tools. And
Mm-hmm.
here's like the first tool that I want people to really understand. Anybody that's watching, whatever you are struggling with,
Mm-hmm.
do not think it's willpower. Do not think it's self-control. Do not think it is self-discipline. Do not beat yourself up and say that you don't have those things, because that is not the truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here's the truth. They make the food addictive.
They do.
The sugar, the
Mm-hmm.
salt, the starch, the fat, the additives, the preservatives, they're all designed to make you want more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the process, and I'm talking about the processed food, right? The stuff that's not even really food, that they
Right.
tell us food that's not food, that we have
Mm-hmm.
to do our own research. Because here's the thing: we need real food to live. And I'm going to tell you what real food is. It is the fresh fruits and vegetables, and it's the high
Mm-hmm.
quality protein. That's food,
My
right?
brother always says as a nutritional coach, you have to eat live food in order to live. And it's like, man, that's pretty powerful
It is.
because when
It
you're
is.
doing that process, that stuff is already dead for the most part.
And it's not even food. It is
Mm-hmm.
it is it is just a lab experiment. It's just a lab
Mm.
experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And our body, here's the other thing: it's like our bodies don't recognize it as food. Our bodies don't metabolize it as food.
Mm-hmm.
Our bodies just think of it as a foreign substance. And so
Right.
it makes it easier for us to get sick, because when we eat this processed stuff that has been stripped of nutrients, it's not even food, the stuff that we can't even pronounce it, and we ingest it in our bodies take its resources to deal with this foreign thing, which leaves us vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
to the
Yeah.
real stuff that our body should be fighting off, right?
Yeah.
So so that's the thing, that understand this, they spend billions of dollars on research to get
Mm-hmm.
the crunch just right, to get the color just right, to get the size just right, to advertise it in just the right manner, to create desire for it, to make us want
Wow.
it. And
Wow.
so that desire and the combination of the stuff that's not even food, the additives, the preservatives,
Mm-hmm.
it is chemical. It's addictive.
Mm.
And it acts in our brain just like drugs.
Yeah.
It changes our brain. Depending on the research, there are research experiments that show that sugar is more addicted than cocaine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
More addicted than cocaine, yet it is in everything. We have to read the and it has a bunch of different names. They give it a whole bunch of different names so you don't really
Mm-hmm.
realize it is sugar. So the very first thing we have to do is we have to start getting this addictive substance out of our bodies and out of our brains.
So how would you suggest, especially right now, I think a lot of children are highly addicted to
Mhm.
sugar because it's just fast for a lot of
Mhm.
parents. How do
Mhm.
you suggest detoxing your household
Yeah.
from sugar?
Yeah.
What are some things they should do?
So I the first thing you have to do is start thinking about it differently.
Mm, changing the mind.
you have
Okay.
you have got to start thinking about it differently. And in my program, what I you know my book is called Leaving Larger Stories of a Food Addict. And when I first started off, the tagline, it's not about the food, it's about the story behind the food.
Mm-hmm.
So when people start to understand and get that food does not have any power, what we eat does not have any power. It is our
Mm-hmm.
thoughts and our beliefs about the thing that has the power.
Absolutely.
Not just
Absolutely.
not just food, but everything in life. It's not
Mm-hmm.
the same,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's people aren't toxic, places aren't toxic, food's not toxic. It's what we think about it and how we manage it that creates that toxicity.
How we believe the story that was sold to us.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And so these stories right there, they come from different places, right?
Yeah.
From events, experiences,
Mm-hmm.
memories. Some stories are just in our DNA because of
Mm-hmm.
past
Mm-hmm.
trauma. Some stories have been passed down on to us, and if these
Mm-hmm.
stories come from a trusted voice, we have every reason to believe it, right? And it's not
Exactly.
it's not that these trusted people are telling us lies, but they're telling us their truth, what may not necessarily be our truth.
And
And
that's
so,
the balance. You have to understand
yep.
that somebody else's truth was placed on you.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to identify your own truth. Keep going. I ain't gonna interrupt
Yes,
that. I'm
yes, yes.
loving this.
So we have to rewrite these stories, but first we have to recognize that they even exist.
That part.
They, that part, and a lot of times we're moving through this world with our thoughts and beliefs about food and so many other things without recognizing that these
Mm-hmm.
disempowering beliefs are guiding our behavior. So we have
Mm-hmm.
to bring them up. We have to
Right.
bring them up and look at them. We have to bring them up and examine them. We have to bring them up and assess if they are really true. And if
Mm-hmm.
they're not really true, then we've got to do something with them. We have to create some new things. All right. So back to what you said. What do we do with our kids? What do we do with the stuff?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if someone is told by the doctor, you know, you are allergic to peanuts,
Mm-hmm.
you are allergic to shellfish,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to stop eating that today because it's going to make your throat swell up. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be able to breathe, and you're going to die. Or
Mm-hmm.
that's worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
Best case scenario, you're going to get some hives, you're going to itch,
Mm-hmm.
right? And immediately, the
You
person
stop.
says, "Hey, stop!
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
can't eat I can't eat shellfish. I can't eat peanuts because the doctor says, or this is going to happen," right? So they have a compelling reason. They have a
Mm-hmm.
compelling reason. I'm allergic to this, and it,
Mm.
and it creates this kind of bad situation for me. This bad situation that could be deadly,
Mm-hmm.
this bad situation that I don't want to deal with. My face gets all pocked up and I don't want, right? So as of today, I love crabs, but I'm not eating it. I love shrimp, can't eat it. I I love
Mm-hmm.
peanuts, can't eat them. I mean, and there's some other reasons not to eat peanuts, but let's just go with that for the reason.
Right, right.
So we stop in that moment
Mm-hmm.
because we now have new information
Mm-hmm.
about what that stuff does. So
So what I
so
hear
now
you
I
saying is
believe
the question is, what's my compelling
what's
reason?
my compelling reason.
Mm.
And we in order for to get a compelling reason, we have to have information.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Mm-hmm.
to know.
Mm-hmm.
So sugar. What once we fundamentally understand how sugar breaks down the body,
Mm-hmm.
right? That it's poison, right? If you just close your eyes and when you think of anything that has processed refined sugar, and I'm talking about brown sugar, it's still the same thing. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about cane sugar, it's still the same thing. I'm talking about organic pure cane sugar, it's still the same. It still does the same thing to the body. Flour does the same thing to the body too. I don't even care if
Mm-hmm.
it's wheat, white, all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The gluten, all of that. The processes of today, it acts in your body is the same way. And
Mm.
here's the thing. It it slowly poisons us.
That's a
And
valid
so and
point.
because it slowly poisons us, we don't think it's real.
Mm-hmm.
But understand this. If you just think about it, the dentists tell you avoid sugar because it will decay your teeth. It will rot your
Mm-hmm.
teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we just think about if this stuff will rot my teeth, enamel, what
Mm-hmm.
is it doing to the inside of my body?
That's the reason why I don't drink like Coca-Colas and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. The first time I saw that a Coke would erode the battery acid on a car battery, you can't get me to touch.
Right, right.
The
Because
compelling reason.
you have the information. And see,
Mm-hmm.
what we don't understand is, and this is we got to get talk about being woke. We need to be woke about this. Is that the most of the information that we get about what we eat
Mm-hmm.
comes from the people that make it,
Come on now.
right? So all they're going to talk about is what it looks like, what it
Mm-hmm.
smells like, what it tastes like, and the pleasure it's going to give you.
But that's why people have difficult times going to other countries where there are not so many preserved foods, so
Mm-hmm.
many processed foods, but everything is natural. Because
Mm-hmm.
in those other countries, the things that we use here in America are banned substances.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. So we have to think about this. What is it these other countries know that we don't know?
Right.
Right. That and even when you start looking at the stuff,
Hmm.
you start thinking about is this nutritious? Is it
Right.
because if you I had to Google it. The moment for me, Marcia,
Hmm. Hmm.
well, there were a couple of them, but the big moment for me was when I was 60 years old. I
Mm.
was in the process of writing my book. This
You
is
just 30, sugar. What you mean 60?
that's why you're my favorite. I was Marcia, I was 60 years old before I went to Google and looked up the definition of food.
Mm.
I looked up and right there in Google it said nutrition, nourishment. That is its only purpose.
Wow. And I
So
often say that part of the change is understanding that food is a substance to keep the physical body going. The wrong food is what guides us. But I
yes,
ain't gonna interrupt. You know, you
yes, yes.
give us some
And
good stuff.
and and not just the physical body, Marcia. Here's the other thing. It is our brain too. It's a and so if you don't get anything else out of this, right? Because I'm not
Hmm.
talking about body shaming or any,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just okay, eat to be smarter.
Mm-hmm.
Eat for brain function, eat for
Mm-hmm.
memory, eat for clarity, eat for cognition, eat for performance, eat for productivity, eat for proficiency, eat because you want your kid. I mean, feed your kid because you want to be the smartest one in the class.
Mm-hmm.
Because
That's good, Michelle.
the Doritos and the Pepsi is eating away some brain cells.
Exactly. That's so good. Eat to be smart, cognitively available, and connected with who you are. Man, that's rich.
Yeah,
That's rich.
yeah. But we aren't told that, are we?
Mm-mm.
We aren't told. And that right there, it's in my mind speaks to the biggest issue.
Yeah.
And what we have over here is we have research that tells us that 75% of people will say that they're emotional eaters, right? They'll say they're
Mm.
emotional eaters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the truth: everybody's an emotional eater. Uh,
Right.
we are all 100%,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But we get to choose which emotion. But the
Exactly.
but the problem is that we're socialized to eat from a disempowered place. So
Mm.
anytime somebody talks about they're an emotional eater, they are almost always talking about it from a place of disempowerment, from a
Wow.
place of from a place of pain, from a place of discomfort, from a place that they're complaining. That I eat because I'm stressed, I eat because I'm lonely, I eat because I'm bored, all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they feel like they don't have any control over it. And that is one reason. That's the reason why I don't use the phrase relationship with food.
I see now. I see
Because our goal, food is inanimate.
now.
Food
Mm-hmm.
is an inanimate object. Our goal is to have a relationship with ourselves so that we can have relationships with other people,
That's it. That's
right?
it.
And if we keep trying to go to food to have a relationship with food, that's what that feeds the addiction, because we keep trying to get food to do something that it does not have the capacity to do, which is have a relationship with us because it is inanimate.
I just shared with a client earlier today because her go-to when triggered or stressed was eating. And I said to her, when you're feeling that stress or that trigger rise up in you, when you reach to grab something, ask yourself, why am I eating this? And what am I missing that needs to be fulfilled? And I told myself food would do it.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
the truth is in any trauma, I'm a trauma therapist. So in any form of trauma, we're looking for some type of self appeasement so we don't have to feel
Yes.
that
Yes.
traumatic experience. Well, when you heal from the trauma, because you've addressed it, you confronted it, you rewrote your narrative about it, then you can actually experience the newness of, I don't need to abuse food because abusing food is abusing me.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, yeah. So, you have provided a perfect segue
Mm-hmm.
into the heart of what I do that's different,
Okay.
right? And how I address this space of people saying, my issue is emotional eating,
Mm-hmm.
but the solutions are not emotional. The solutions are all food. And so that's where the disconnect is, because
Mm-hmm.
people are saying my problem is I'm an emotional eater. They're saying I have emotions that I think food can solve, but food will never
Mm-hmm.
solve it because food can only solve hunger. It's just for
That
nutrition.
part.
But I keep going because I don't know how to manage the emotion. Sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
don't even recognize the emotion. I don't, but I keep trying to make it be food. And so we have all these programs, all these powders, all these pills that are the only solutions for a problem this stuff will never solve.
Mm-hmm.
It will,
Mm-hmm.
and so people are stuck in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
People are stuck in the middle trying to make this stuff solve something that
Mm-hmm.
it can't solve. But
Mm-hmm.
we keep getting these messages that it can solve it, and so we think it's us. We think we don't have any willpower. We don't think we don't have any self control. We think we don't have any self
Mm-hmm.
discipline
Mm-hmm.
because the system is rigged against us.
Exactly. And you have to address those traumas. I know for me, one of the battles that I entered in is being a child of molestation and rape. So
Mm-hmm.
I ate to gain weight, hoping that I wouldn't be attractive.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
then when I was still attractive to others, I gained more weight
Yes.
until I started tapping into, why are you eating this?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing that? Y'all, you got to get to the root
Mm-hmm.
behind your why. Why do
Yes.
I run to food? Why do I cave in? Why do I clean my plate? Why do I over fix my plate?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All of those things are,
Mm-hmm.
in my idea, are survival mindsets
Yes.
from whatever their traumatic experience is.
Yes. Yeah. I mean that, Marcia, that's another conversation. This trauma in food, and as a matter of fact, it is that is my next book. But
Nice.
we can talk about that later. But because I want to get back to these emotions, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
In a way to deal with it. Oh, so I have a very specific model that I follow.
Okay.
And here's what I want to tell you. I am not a therapist. I'm not that,
Mm-hmm.
but I am just a woman who struggled with this for 40 years and figured it out.
Yeah.
Everything I talk about is from me having figured it out and lived it. And so
Mm-hmm.
here's what I teach people when I'm coaching people. Here's what I teach them. And we talk about the food, but I'm not giving out recipes. I ain't doing any of that.
Right.
This is all a head game because
Mm-hmm.
our bodies follow our brain.
Yes. Ooh, say that
It's
one more time.
brain. Our bodies follow our brain. Before we ever gained a single extra ounce of anything on our body, we gained it in our head first. So
Come
we have to lose it in the
on. Mm-hmm.
same way. We have to
Mm-hmm.
lose it in the same way. And here's how we lose it. Here's how we get our brains back from the neural marketers that tell us that we should eat for pleasure. That tell us that we should eat because oh girl, what's that you got? I should I
Mm-hmm.
should I should have got that. Yours looks better than mine. No,
Mm-hmm.
do we when we talk about emotional eating, do we talk about eating out of envy, eating out of jealousy, eating out of fear that
Exactly.
we're missing out of something? Nobody
Mm-hmm.
talks about that, but that's
Mm-hmm.
real, right?
It's real.
I have a process that I follow, and that's it's called vamp.
Okay.
Get vampy with me. Get vampy with get va- All right. So visualization,
Mm.
you have to be able to see yourself in some other way than what you are. You
Come
have to
on now.
see yourself responding in situations from a place of empowerment rather than
Mm-hmm.
disempowerment. The way you would like to respond. You
Right.
got to see that. You have to imagine, you have to daydream what that feels like moving
Mm-hmm.
through that, just identifying all the senses that are connected to that. So affirmations we have to talk to ourselves, right?
I just told a client today, I said, listen, I'm not going to keep telling you this. You can't keep quitting on your affirmation
Mm-hmm.
because the moment that you're quitting on your affirmation, you're going back to your old story. And
Mm-hmm.
that story doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah. But I mean, we have to keep putting the
Excuse me.
affirmations in to push the old stuff out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have to do it constantly because this environment is constantly trying to get us to do something different, right?
Well,
So,
if you're 40 years in this mindset
mm-hmm.
and you gain knowledge today, you still got 40 years to shave.
That's right. That's
That's where
right.
the affirmations come from.
That's where the community. That's where the
Yeah.
community comes from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because once you're in community, you can accelerate it, right?
Yeah.
You can because you have more voices, you have more stuff to pull on. So we've got the affirmations, we've got the meditation. We have
Yes.
we because people talk about this, Marcia. I hear this phrase all the time. Oh, it's an eating disorder, right? It's an eating disorder. But here's the thing, it's not
Yeah.
because
See, I
eating
just believe that it's trauma based. I
it,
believe
it,
there's a baseline in trauma with
it,
eating issues.
it's trauma, it's addiction, it's some
Yeah.
there's some other things in it too, right? But here's the thing is that we hear this phrase eating disorder. You got to control your eating. You got to That's all
Mm-hmm.
behavior. That's all
Mm-hmm.
behavior. And so before we can deal with behavior, we have to deal with belief.
Come on.
So
One more
it is
time.
before we deal with behavior, we got to deal with belief, and belief is rooted in thinking. So what we're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with is not an eating disorder, it is a thinking disorder, it is a belief disorder. And
Come on now.
so when we go to the meditation is exercise for the brain.
Come on.
Meditation is exercise for your brain. So when you're able to calm your thoughts about the world, about life, about anything, when you're able to focus on this one thing because you practice the meditation, when you get out in a toxic food environment, when you get around toxic people, when you get around situations that would normally what people call triggering for them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'll talk about triggers in a second. You can use your mind and go to someplace else.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
the power of meditation, right?
Mm-hmm,
Right? Because
mm-hmm.
you are reclaiming, you're reclaiming your brain, right? What I'm saying is that all this stuff, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the sign is flashing red and yellow and saying fresh, hot, and ready. I don't even see it. As my aunt used to say, I see you, but I don't see you. Right?
That's it. That's it.
I
That's
see.
it. It's like being at the store and on the end caps is all that ooey gooey attractive stuff. Well,
Right,
I've trained my brain to say, oh, that ain't good for me.
right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
It is training your brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
To know that it's not good for you. So first you got
Mm-hmm.
to know, you got to have that information. Then you have to train your brain to go to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have these conversations with people, and they'll say, well, in the black community, we don't have good food. We don't have access to fresh food, and so I get that, and
Mm-hmm.
I get
Mm-hmm.
that, and I know that access is real,
Right.
but here's or lack of access is real. But here's what's also real. It is desire.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, no matter what the access is, if you put an apple in front of somebody, you put a McDonald's apple pie, you put your mama's apple pie, the apple is the last thing that somebody's going to eat. And the apple
Exactly.
is the only thing that's not going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing
Mm-hmm.
against your mama, but all that sugar, all that fat, all that flour, none of that's good.
Mm-hmm.
She just doesn't know that it's addictive. She doesn't know that it's killing you. She just thinks I'm making something lovely and sweet and tasty for
Mm-hmm.
somebody I love.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a story we have to rewrite, right?
Right.
That's a story we have to shift and say, that
Mm-hmm.
that sugar, that causes blindness, that
Exactly.
causes diabetes. That when I see that, I see a foot being cut off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we have to change what we see and so when you are able to do that, you change desire.
Yes.
So
Yes.
and understand, I am a sugar addict. I
Okay.
am a I am a sugar addict. I'm In the old days, I would go to a restaurant and order dessert first because I'm grown.
Wow.
I'm grown. I can get my food in any order I want. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
another emotion right there. Right?
Mm-hmm. Going
I'm
back to you're gonna eat that meal first and then
right,
maybe dessert and
right,
then
right.
maybe water. Yeah.
Right. No,
So much.
I'm grown. I'm grown. I
Mm-hmm.
can I can have whatever I want. I work hard. I deserve this. All
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. So now when I go out and they come around with all the stuff I used to eat, the bread pudding, the chocolate cake, the creme brulee, the flour, all the brownie, blah, all that, and I'm just saying no, thank you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
somebody invariably will say to me, "Oh my God, I wish I had your willpower. I wish I had your self control. I wish I had your discipline."
Or what's wrong with you? Why you don't want that look
Yeah,
good?
right,
Mm-hmm.
right,
The pressure.
and right. And so here's the thing: I don't have any willpower. I don't have self control. I don't have self discipline. What I have is no desire to eat stuff that will kill me.
Come on. Come on. And that's a huge key.
That's the shift.
Changing your desire
That's the shift.
to associate with your compelling reason and then
Right.
activating your thought process. I
That
love it. Love it.
that's that's it. But we can do that once we get the information. That's why we have to know about how corn is stored, right? That's how we have to know. We have to know about the mold. We have to know about what happens to peanuts. We have to know
Mm-hmm.
about all that stuff. We have to know about the plastics and salt. We have to know about that. We have to know,
Mm-hmm.
just because an oil says heart healthy on the front doesn't mean that it is.
That's the trick.
It's
Like
trick.
low fat is a trick.
It's
No
trickery.
sugar is a
It's a
trick.
trick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So we have to read and understand that. So when we get the information and we know what that stuff does to us,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And we
Mm-hmm.
can get focused on really, how do I want to live? How do I want to look? How do I want to feel? How do I want to show up in this world?
Come on.
Those are the questions.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then eat to get those things. The question becomes,
Absolutely.
will my eating this give me the thing that I want in life?
So what I hear you saying is when you understand you apply your self-love and your goals of where you're trying to go, you can then change your desire. So ultimately you're changing your stinking thinking. Love
Yes,
it.
yes,
Love it.
yes, yes. And I'm glad you brought me back to that, because I got off rail, because here's what happens if people don't. I don't think people really understand, and how this this eating from a place of emotional disempowerment hurts us.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go back to what you said about trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma, there's like a continuum,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but everybody is different. What can be traumatizing for one person doesn't necessarily have to be traumatizing to another, because of the way because of what they believe and what they think, right?
Right.
Right. But nonetheless, trauma sends us to a place of pain and discomfort.
Come on. Mm-hmm.
And if we are using food for pleasure, because it's sweet. It hits the pleasure centers. It hits the dopamine centers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it separates us from that pain.
Right.
Because all these, much whether it's trauma, whether it's grief, whether it's sadness, whether it's boredom, whether it's any loneliness, all that stuff, it puts us in a place of pain and discomfort. The stress puts us in a place of pain and discomfort. It has us feeling some stuff that we don't want to feel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we don't consciously say, "Oh my God, I'm stressed. I think I'll eat a pain a bit. I think I'll eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's." We don't
Mm-hmm.
consciously think, "Oh, my boss
All
is
of that.
is all of that, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'm gonna go to lunch, and I'm gonna have a hamburger. I'm gonna have a French fries. I'm gonna have dessert, a shake, and a drink." We don't consciously say that.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do is we just feel the thing. We feel it. And
Mm-hmm.
then when the opportunity to feel better, right? Because something tastes good, we'll just
Mm-hmm.
we'll just say, I think I'm gonna get some of that. I think
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
have some more of that, right? Because it's separating you from this discomfort, it's separating you from this pain. It's not conscious. That's why it's so important to do what you said earlier, asking the questions, because asking those questions separate us from
Mm-hmm.
the desire,
Mm-hmm.
from the addiction, from the desire, and helps us make a decision based in nutrition, based food and nutrition and nourishment. But here's the thing: as long as we
Mm-hmm.
are using food to separate ourselves from pain and discomfort, to cover it, to mask it, to do something about it, we never address it.
Come
It never gets healed. And it
on.
just stays in us, and it grows
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
some sort of discomfort that we just walk around with all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't name it. And so we're
Mm-hmm.
always trying to eat something or do something to cover it, but we don't know. It may be depression, it may be some other stuff, because it's just this
Mm-hmm.
ball of stuff that keeps never getting addressed, because we don't have
Mm-hmm.
to either name it, identify it, and then address it.
Absolutely.
But the other piece is, if you follow just this train of thought,
Mm-hmm.
that your greatest contribution in this world is through what you've learned through your pain,
Mm-hmm.
if you embrace that
Mm-hmm.
and you never go through the pain because you're covering up with food, then that means you never ever tap into what your real gift to this world is, because you never give yourself an opportunity to experience it.
And I would add to that, you're just existing. You're not living
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
because
I
you
you
can't live in a space where you have suppressed trauma that's undealt with because your mind, the moment a trigger comes, you're going to begin to ruminate. They didn't
mm-hmm.
love me. Nobody sees me. All of those different things. And then you're going to reach
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
something to appease that hurting part of you to quiet it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to call it out. You got to
Mm-hmm.
confront it so that
Mm-hmm.
you can move from existing in survival to living.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
ultimately the goal.
That's
That,
ultimately the
I
goal.
love that. Give me the
Yes.
P.
Yes. 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 Yeah. And so, the thing about it, Marcia, Marcy, I'm sorry. The
Mm-hmm.
thing about it is I think we live in this place that doesn't teach us to honor emotions, to honor feelings,
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
full range of them,
Mm-hmm.
and have this fundamental understanding that they're not really good or bad. They're just
Mm-hmm.
data. It's information. We need them all. We need grief. We need sadness. We need loneliness, but we also need joy.
Mm-hmm.
We need
Mm-hmm.
excitement, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to
Mm-hmm.
be thrilled. All everything that comes through us, every emotion, every up and down, I mean, that's living. to be
Yes.
able to be able to experience the full range of it. And if we cut ourselves off from one, we cut ourselves off from all of them,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. And we're not our best self.
No.
On this big old rock, that's one of the smaller rocks in the solar system, we we all have an anointing and an appointment for this place.
Mm-hmm.
Tapping into the barriers that restrict or impede you and or delay you from getting to that appointment or anointing will cause you to be internally sick.
Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yeah. And so, that uh that internal sickness that you're talking about, it goes back to
Mm-hmm.
what we're talking about with suppression. Is that whatever the stuff that we call negative, right? The feelings,
Mm-hmm.
that what
Mm-hmm.
that trauma, the trauma that you're trying to keep tamped down, that's some truth right there. That
That is.
so it's associated with some truth. And so the truth always wants to push out and break free.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
until it's addressed, it will always be pushing out,
Mm-hmm.
break through, break free,
Mm-hmm.
right? That
Mm-hmm.
authenticity is always going to be pushing out. That truth, that realness is going to be pushing up. But if we think it's too painful, or if we are afraid of it, if we don't feel like we have the tools to handle it, if there's something about it that wants us to keep it in darkness and we're trying to cover it, whether consciously or unconsciously, with food, then it's going to continue to push, and we have to continue to eat to keep it covered up.
Mm-hmm. To
And so the
silence the voice of the pain.
yes, and so the cycle just continues. It just
Mm-hmm.
until right until there's a little piece that can come through,
Yeah.
right, and be healed, right,
Mm-hmm.
and then another little piece can come through and be healed, and you can get to this point where you can feel the joy in the healing, and and,
Mm-hmm.
and feel the joy in the self-discovery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There are things there this you know I'm getting, like, I'm stuttering because I when I look at the research, when I
Mm-hmm.
look at the research and I see that 4 out of 5 African American women are either overweight or obese, it breaks my heart.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
And,
But I
do you attribute it to, or I attribute it, and I'll ask you to weigh in, to that superwoman mindset, unprocessed trauma, and the inability to know thyself?
oh I, it is all that, and then some other stuff, right?
Mm.
It is all of that, and some other stuff. uh,
Mm-hmm.
and and God, that girl, that it.
It's so much because you know we're gonna have to do a second episode.
I'm shaking my head because like that that's a whole that surviving soul food and the systemic assault on Black women's health. That's a whole nother thing,
Whole
right?
nother conversation. Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother conversation. But when I look at those numbers, right? It is it it just hits me, right?
Yeah.
It hits me
Mm-hmm.
someplace here, and I don't look at it. I look at it and think that Black women are dealing with a whole bunch of stuff that puts them in a place of pain.
Yep.
It puts them in a place of emotional pain,
Mm-hmm.
and that they don't. And it's what you said. Got to be a strong. I no matter what happens, I still got to show up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To act like this doesn't exist. I can't put a name. I can't show any kind of weakness. I gotta and so
Mm-hmm.
but but it does show up.
It
It
does.
it it, it does show up when I when I see when I see somebody with extra weight, and
Mm-hmm.
this came really clear for me back during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
During the pandemic, my high school, no, my college roommate got very sick.
Mm.
She lives in Texas. I live in Maryland,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm her family. Right? And so
Mm-hmm.
She called me and said deep vein thrombosis, blood clot, emergency surgery, all of that. And I'm like, I'm on the next thing smoking.
Mm-hmm.
And so for about 6 or 7 months, I was back and forth between Maryland and Texas,
Mm-hmm.
flying when nobody was flying, that the
Mm-hmm.
airports were empty. I was her only visitor in the hospital. And
Mm.
to Texas, which is where we went to school, and
Mm-hmm.
um, where I was much heavier than I was now. And so, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, when I was in college, what I mean, that freshman 50, that freshman 15
It's real.
was my
Mm-hmm.
freshman 50. It was the freshman
Mm-hmm.
50 for me.
Mm-hmm.
So so I was passing by a lot of places that where all that stuff happened. But so I'm there, helping her
Okay.
through
Mm-hmm.
her illness, and they may amputate her leg, they may not.
Mm-hmm.
She may live, she may die. All this stuff is going on. All this stuff is going on. We're in
Mm-hmm.
the middle of COVID. I'm still trying to work. I had just signed the paperwork to do my book. I mean, all this stuff was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the most stressful times of my life.
Wow.
Probably one of the most stressful times of my life. I
Mm-hmm.
got up and I walked every morning. I
Mm-hmm.
walked every morning before I went to the
Intentionally.
her, right, to do all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. And every morning on my walk, I would, I don't know if you've ever been to Texas or not, I would pass by a Brahms ice cream. And
Mm.
Brahms ice cream shop. In fact, in my book, I write about a couple of ice cream stories. But anyway,
Okay.
but when I lived there before, I don't know that I ever passed by a Brahms and didn't go in it.
Oh
And by
wow. Okay.
no, I don't know that ever happened in my lifetime, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm walking every day and I see this Brahms ice cream stop, I say to myself, "Oh my gosh! In the old days, I would have been right over there, right?" And it
Mm-hmm.
feels kind of interesting just to walk by it and not have any thoughts about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it dawned on me as I was doing this walk, and I would think I am going through a lot right now, but anybody looking at me wouldn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't look at me and know it.
Mm-hmm.
And what just became real clear is that everybody goes through stuff. We all have stressful lives, right? We all have all kinds of stuff going on. The difference between me in that moment and me before my doctor said to me, stress will kill you. That's how this
Mm-hmm.
thing got started. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
was that stuff was going on and I didn't have the tools to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so food became my tool to
Yeah.
deal with them, but the food could never deal with those things, so the things never got dealt with, right? And so I just got bigger trying to get to make the food do it,
Yep.
but none of it was conscious. That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing, none of it was conscious.
Mm-hmm.
So so our first charge is to get conscious, is to become aware. Because when you
Yes,
become aware and get consciousness, then you can make a shift.
absolutely.
But as but this toxic environment wants us to stay unconscious because as
Mhm.
long as they keep us unconscious, we can be controlled.
Come on.
Right?
Come on. You know, people hate the word woke because unfortunately, the group of people who have bastardized the word woke. But the truth is when we are awakened to the ploys to keep us down, we can begin to live, educating ourselves, understanding. And I really hope the audience understand if you have someone that's overweight in their life, stop calling them lazy.
Oh,
There's a whole nother battle going
yes.
on inside of them. The second thing is you don't have to remind them that they're heavy. They
Mm-hmm.
know.
They know.
They live in it.
Mm-hmm.
They have to struggle with it. The third thing that I would suggest to people is know your own truth
Mm-hmm.
so you don't have to depend on somebody else telling you a
Yes.
truth.
Yes. Yes.
Got to be able to put those
Yes.
things into play so that you can really honor yourself and say, I have a right to change. I have a right to change my thinking. I have a right to change how I move, how I project, how I love and see me. I have that right.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And lastly, and then I'm turning back over to you, you know, so we can close out. But the last thing that I would say to people is when you consider your food intake, ask yourself, is it nurturing, nourishment, or appeasement?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those answers is going to identify if I actually need to put that in my body. The goals that you set, I turned 60 in a couple of years. It is all of my intent to be the healthiest me at that time. Because for me, healthy is more of I still got purpose on this rock
Yes.
than anything else. And I can't be unhealthy if I'm going to fulfill that purpose as I fulfill that purpose.
Yes.
You got to have your compelling reason. That's gonna stick with me more as much as everything else that you said. I know I'm just gonna keep
Yeah.
consuming the information, but I think that it's important. I know that we ran on an hour, but I think that it's important for us to come back together again because I still know that there's more that people need to hear from you regarding the journey, regarding your hope, regarding your you broke it down in a formula like you gotta think it, visualize it, you got to change how you speak about it, right? You
Mm-hmm.
gotta put yourself in a position to say, hold on, I gotta change even how I meditate on this thing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in order for me to do that, I got to have a process in place to get to where I need to be
Yes.
and change my verbiage. So I
Mm-hmm.
will not use relationship with food again. You change your verbiage when you change, and I say this to clients when I change my mouth, when I change what I speak, I change the things that's in my heart. When I
Mm-hmm.
change the things in my heart, I'm gonna change the things in my head, and then I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna change my action.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, what would be some closing words that you would say to our audience?
So you know what you reminded me when I was doing VAP, I didn't even do the last one. The last, here's the closing, is that we've got to add the writing, what I call
Mm,
prescriptive writing, which is what I teach, which is writing for healing. And
mm,
that transformation comes in the writing, which is not keeping a food log. That's important. What you ate is important. It's different than keeping a journal. I call it keep journaling on steroids. The journaling is this is just what happened. But when
mm-hmm.
you start writing for your healing, we peel back the layers. We
Yes,
peel back the who. the what, the
Mm-hmm.
when, the where, oh, the why, oh, the why. We keep right? And it's a
Mm-hmm.
systematic approach. It's a
Mm-hmm.
systematic approach to get to the healing that you can only get it that way because the writing makes it real. The right
Yeah. And
the
don't be afraid of the writing. Don't
oh,
be afraid of the emotion or the somatic responses that come from the writing. Feel it and go deeper.
yes.
Because your goal, I tell this to clients all the time, your goal is to be like that onion. You're going to peel those first few layers and you're going to be crying, you're going to be sniffling. It's going to be painful because it hurts your eyes and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, your goal is to get to that little pearl that's
Mhm.
in the center when all the layers of that onion are pulled back. And it's the
Mhm.
sweetest part of the
Yes.
onion. My favorite part, I love onions anyway, but it's my favorite part of the onion because it needs nothing.
Yes.
It don't
Yes.
need to be sauteed. It don't need to have seasoning. It needs
Mm.
absolutely nothing.
Mm.
Consider your healing like that. Get to that pearl. But close us out
Oh,
with some words
that's
of
beautiful.
wisdom.
Oh, words of wisdom. I am Marcia. I'm going to piggyback on you. I'm going to piggyback on you because your power. Here's the word. Your
Mm,
power is in your ability to question.
yes.
And the question is this really food? I mean, if you like wrap your arms and embrace these questions, your life will change today.
Mm-hmm.
Is this really food?
Mm-hmm.
How do I know it's food? How do I
Mm-hmm.
know? How do I
Mm-hmm.
know it's the truth? Right?
Mm.
Is it safe?
Mm.
Right? Not is it good? What's it taste like? Is it safe? We can't trust it just because it came from Whole Foods. Nothing against Whole Foods, but there's plenty in there that will kill you. Right? Right? There's plenty
Mm-hmm.
in there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and not because it came from a restaurant. I worked in a restaurant. That's a whole nother show. Right? But so those will this give me the body, the health, the life, the mind I say I want? Will this
Mm-hmm.
do that?
Yes.
Right? Why this food now? Why this particular food now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And finally, and you said it, what am I feeling right now? Am I really hungry? Or
Mm-hmm.
or am I something else? Am I lonely? Am I angry? Am I tired? Am I frustrated? Who just walked in the room? Was I hungry a few minutes ago? Did something just happen? What did I just hear?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Those questions. I mean, it sounds like a lot of questions, but after you practice, you can go through all of them in about 3 seconds. You can do it.
Absolutely.
You can do them in about 3 seconds, and it will
Mm-hmm.
give you just the enough time to make a decision that honors your body,
Mm-hmm.
that that
Mm-hmm.
that that allows you to make a decision that's based in nutrition and nourishment,
Yeah.
and not one that's based in addiction. And it takes
Love that.
but you have to be committed to this process. Don't
Yes.
think don't think, listen to this podcast over and over again. Let the stuff sink in. But you just have to keep doing it. The first time you do it, you may get one question. Right? You may
Mm-hmm.
make it through one. You may still
Mm-hmm.
eat the same thing, but I guarantee you this, you will never ever eat another thing again and not know why.
Because the seed is planted.
Yep. Yep. You
The
can't
seed is
unlearn it.
planted.
You
Yes.
can't unlearn
Yes.
it.
It's there. It's there in your space. So, Michelle, I want you to share with everyone how can they make contact with you?
Yes, 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 yes. All right. If you are interested in my book, there are two things that you can do. You can go to leavinglarge.com. That's leaving, like leaving it behind,
Mm-hmm.
leaving the behind, right? Leavinglarge.com. And
Mm-hmm.
you can order the book from me. I will sign it and I will send it to you. Right? I
Don't
will
go to Amazon.
don't go to Amazon.
Leavinglarge.com.
Get it
Mm-hmm.
directly from me. Also, if you're not quite sure, you can get a free chapter on that same space, leavinglarge.com. Download a free chapter, read that chapter, and if it resonates with you, then you can order the book. So you can
Mm-hmm.
you can do it that way. I am all over social media. Just Google Michelle Pettis. If you can follow me on Instagram at I am brand new now, because this is about brand new thinking. You want a brand new body, you want a brand new life, you want a brand new spirit, you want a brand new soul, you got to get a brand new mind.
Come on.
And so It's I am brand new now. I do a lot of writing on LinkedIn, a lot of
Okay.
stories on LinkedIn. You can find Michelle Pettis. But if you want to start some transformation today, all right, just email me.
Mm-hmm.
Email me at michellepettis.com, and I will send you the free PDF, right? Mind over meals, because this is what we've been talking about for the past hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mind over meals, the 7 secrets to rewire your brain for healthy eating and high performance. I'll send it to you. It's a free PDF, and it takes you through all the 8 steps of being brand new, day by day. It gives you the
Mm-hmm.
affirmations, it gives you the visualizations, right? It gives you a place to write.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you all of that, and you can take that and just keep doing that book over and over again and change your life. All right.
Michelle at michellepetties.com. Listen, y'all, I am encouraging you to go out there, follow, like, subscribe to her page, support, glean the information. As soon as we're off, I followed you on LinkedIn, but now I'm getting ready to go to all the social medias and find you because I think that what you are doing is changing lives from the internal to the external. And I am so appreciative of this conversation today. My head is spinning because it's like, okay, where's your calendar? You got to get her back in. We got to do this a second run, maybe a third run. But the information, Michelle said it, keep hitting play. Keep hitting play because I promise you, you're going to glean more and gain more each time you listen. You know that you can find it on Authentically Peculiar with Marcia on YouTube and on Spotify and all the other streaming apps. You can also find me, marciablaine.com. You can subscribe to the blog so that you can get that weekly. You can find the books on marciablaine.com. But more importantly, get a community to stay connected. Get a community to stay connected. So we'll see you next time. Michelle, again, thank you so very much for joining me today. We'll see you on the next episode of Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Take good care, love yourself, and always, always walk in your purpose.